Derivatives trading involves substantial risk of loss and is not suitable for all investors. Past performance is not necessarily indicative of future results. The information here is strictly for educational purposes only and is not a recommendation to trade. You are solely responsible for your own trading actions. No members of DSC Capital were harmed in the making of this video.
All right, welcome back everybody to another Crude Weekly Outlook video. Let's get right into it and kind of talk about the market and talk about some possible scenarios. So let's take a look first at what happened last week. Last week, it was an inside week of the prior week. This is 2 weeks ago, and the market last week traded within the prior week's range. Now, we did see that the point of control did move slightly higher. Let me get this. So we can see that the point of control did move slightly higher, but overall value is pretty fairly contained. I want to say, it's about like 95% contained, except for like this little top part right there. So overall, value is holding within this weekly range. It was an inside week, and then we did see the VPOC move higher. Now, where did we close and where we opened? So last week, pretty much what played out last week. Pretty much the scenario that played out was the look below and fail of this inside week. So this was last Thursday, this was last Friday. The market did break lower right on the Sunday open, and pretty much it sort of just snapped right back above, held, and then we seen the continuation higher. So we opened way down here and we closed way up there. So overall, we could see that from open and close, the market did close higher. Another thing that we do have is we sort of have this was last Thursday, and pretty much everything has been trading within last Thursday's range, except for Friday. Last Friday was the market attempting to break away. So what I'm looking for, or what I'm trying to see, is does this sustain, and does the market start to trade higher towards our upper targets, or does the market fall back within and then we just simply trade within this balance? Another thing to note about last week's close is it did close a little bit away from value. So we did see the market close way up here, leaving value behind. So that's just something that, something I like to pay attention to. So in terms of plans, we do have this ledge that we formed at the highs. Now this ledge is pretty much the point of control from Friday, and that's at 61.07. I think what we do at this ledge is going to be pretty important to pay attention to. So for a possible short scenario, let's just say that the market doesn't hold above the ledge and we get below the ledge. And so what would that look like? So this could either play out in two ways. The first way being the market, it either, like, wherever it opens, the market just isn't able to continue higher. The market falls below the ledge. There's a clear break, a move away, and then if this provides a retest, this could give a short opportunity for the gap fill that we left from the RTH gap that we left from Friday. Retesting obviously the weekly point of control. And then if this low volume area does not hold, we could look for this distribution to be traded through. And, if that doesn't hold, we do have an inside week. So if there's a break, whichever way this sort of high or this low breaks, that could be, that could lead to some sort of breakout. But for this scenario, and kind of why I'm doing this scenario, is simply because we do have end of month on Thursday and Friday. So this is sort of playing with that whole end of month theme. Now the alternative, or the variation of this scenario, is say we test higher first, maybe we test around this high volume area up here, and then we sort of do the same thing. It gets below the ledge, you retest it from below, and then you see the continuation. That's going to be my short scenario. Now, for the long scenario, let's just take this off. For the long scenario, it's pretty much watching this ledge, but also sort of watching this low volume area from below. So if the market, we open, it tests the ledge, it holds it, and then we start to move away, that could be a possible long setup for a continuation higher, breaking away from that prior range. So breaking away from all this range. Let me just actually mark it. So this high and then that low. So, holding that ledge, which is holding Friday's VPOC, is simply, holding the continuation for higher. And then from here, the targets that we're playing for is one, the inside week high. And then if this does continue, I have a target way up here at like 63.75. This is just sort of the next high volume area. We do have also some tiny sets of singles up here, as well as an RTH gap. So if this does head higher, that's going to be what I'll be watching for. Now, a variation of this is the market we would move lower first, and the market would either, one, hold the VPOC, so the prior weekly point of control, or it would test a little bit into this low volume area. That's sort of the trade I would prefer for the long. If it was to play out, like if we do get a deeper pullback, I want to see this low volume area get tested. If it's tested, we're seeing it hold, then pretty much the same sort of thing. I'm watching for those upper targets, and then obviously if this does break, if this is like a good break, we could see the continuation higher, for those upper targets. Now, Rob isn't here today, but Rob did share his scenarios. So for Rob, his scenario, his primary scenario is pretty much us. Let me just remove this. So Rob's primary scenario is us testing the VPOC and then moving higher. Like I said, I personally prefer if we do test the low volume area, but that's what Rob's watching. Test of the POC and then head higher. And then if the market is unable to get above the news we had from this week, so the news we had this week, this was sort of like a news high, and we also have like a POC, so this naked point of control at 61.55. It's pretty much the same thing, I would say. If the market tests higher, it fails to continue, we could see a short back down to fill the RTH gap, and then because we do have end of month, if this does start to accelerate lower, then we do have our lower targets. That's pretty much all I had to cover for this week. Overall, what I would say is, one, just be mindful of Thursday and Friday's end of month, and if you didn't, me and Rob do have a Discord that we're sort of walking through these scenarios that we're sharing. That Discord for now is free to join, but soon that will be a paid service. So if that's something you guys are interested in, I'll put the invite link in the description and in the comments for you guys to check out. And I think that's all I got to cover. So take care. We'll see you all next week.